It has just been announced that Tales of Rebirth will finally be getting a full fan translation next month, in December 2024. There aren't that many Tales games that haven't already been brought to the West, but there are a few, and since Tales is one of my favorite JRPG series, I've always wanted to try this one out, and it isn't the only one on the list. There's still Fantasia X, which is apparently the best version of Tales of Fantasia. There's Tales of Destiny 2, which is the PS2 sequel to Tales of Destiny. Innocence and Hearts already have fan translations, so there's already been some fan translations out there. And of course, there is the game that this same group has already translated, Tales of Destiny Director's Cut. If you haven't looked into it already, you definitely should. It's an incredible game, it's really well done, and Lifebottle has done a great job of following through on that translation. They've ironed it out, they've done various bits of editing over time, so it's ended up in a really good spot. So that's what you can expect from Tales of Rebirth translation. The initial version will likely be pretty decent already, and if you'd like to play it right away, it'll be good enough to do that. But over time, it'll get better and better, so it could be worth waiting just, a little bit longer if you want the best version of that translation. But what exactly is Tales of Rebirth? If you've never heard of it, or I'm sure there are a lot of people who have never heard of it at all, or they only know it exists and that they can't play it, Rebirth was originally released on the PlayStation 2. This was right during the era where 3D was on the rise, so many mainstream outlets in the US during this time probably would, pan your game if it was entirely in 2D. I saw that a lot, especially in certain magazines. This is around the same time that Tales of Symphonia was coming out, and I think it was the same year. They're two different teams, so this is probably part of the reason that we never got certain games from Japan in the West during this time period, and Tales of Rebirth is, for the most part, entirely in 2D, and it is honestly one of the most beautiful 2D Tales games because of that, because it's pretty late in that era of games. They really started to perfect the 2D style around the time of Tales of Eternia, with incredibly done backgrounds, very stylistic characters, animated portraits and sprites and all of this stuff. So that's one of the things that's definitely stuck out the most for me. Just looking at it, it's something that it definitely shares with Tales of Destiny Director's Cut. It has some of the best looking combat out of any of those Tales games of that style. And that is specifically the Tales games that are on a 2D plane. I think they call it like the linear motion battle system, something like that. It's definitely better than Tales of Legendia, which sort of did a 2D, 3D sort of mixed thing while still being on the linear 2D plane. After Legendia, pretty much all Tales combat systems switched to being fully 3D. The combat in Tales of Rebirth is faster paced than some of the other games with the same style. There are two different gauges that you'll have to pay attention to, one that fills up and lets you do a special move, and there's another called the rush gauge that you can manipulate for various effects. So if the rush gauge's levels are low, you take less damage, but you also deal less damage, your HP recovers faster, and spellcast time is lower. If the rush gauge is higher, you deal more damage, but you also take more damage. So manipulating that is something that you have to think about. There are also multiple lanes in this one, so you can step to the side. It's kind of like Guardian Heroes, if anyone's ever played that. Pretty obscure game, so I don't know how many people have. But it's basically there's 3 different lanes that you can move into. This makes combat positioning more meaningful since you have to pay attention and you adjust to the enemy movement more. You have to think about which lane they're in and targeting based on which lane they are. It's actually really interesting. It seems really fun. Of course, the story in Tales of Rebirth is, as usual in the Tales series, a focal point, especially in terms of how the game fills out each character's relationship. There are a ton of skits to watch that expand on the characters in different ways. The skits are very well done too. They're all 2D animated. they're just really well done. The story touches on big themes like racism, since there are two different distinct races in the game, and there are villains who want to destroy one of those races. So I've always wanted to see for myself exactly how all of that plays out, and I've kind of tried to limit spoilers for myself because of that, so I'm not going to be talking too much about the story, but the consensus seems to be that the story and the characters are very well done, with import reviewers being very positive about Tales of Rebirth, and Famitsu reviewed it at a 32 out of 40 when it first came out, so pretty good. This is definitely a game that Tales fans shouldn't miss out on, I don't think. Same with Tales of Destiny Director's Cut. So I'm very happy that Life Bottle has decided to translate both of them and put them out for everyone else to enjoy. This game was from a time when the Tales development team was divided into two separate groups. That is why it came out in the same year that Tales of Symphonia came out. Western audiences didn't get to play most of the games made by the second group because, you know, this was like the 2D game group or something like that. I'm not really sure why that is, why they decided to not put it out for Western audiences, but pretty sure it had something to do with 2D and the critique of 2D at that time. Because of fan translators, that's slowly changing over time. We're starting to finally get some of these games, which is pretty great. If you'd like to stay updated, you can go check out Life Bottle Productions. They have a Twitter page, X page, whatever. And now they also are on Blue Sky. They've put out consistent updates for all of the different things that they're doing. They're not just doing one translation, they're doing a couple different ones, depending on, you know, what their team decides to focus on. Right now, they're very focused on Rebirth and putting that out. So if you're as excited for this game as I am, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.